Good evening and welcome to this session where we meet the filmmaker Pankaj Rishi Kumar, who will be engaged in conversation with Sumanaspati. Pankaj Rishi Kumar's film Janani's Juliet has been screened in this festival and will continue to be on view till tomorrow, till tonight. And I'm very happy to say that quite a few people have seen this film, more than 130 people, and it's very interesting that it's been received so well. I will introduce Sumanaspati first, who will be interviewing Pankaj Rishi Kumar. Sumanaspati Reddy is a radio broadcaster, producer, writer, translator, and documentary film activist. Photography has been a deeply passionate activity on the sides for him for more than a decade now. Pankaj Rishi Kumar is a one-man crew producing, directing, shooting, and editing his own films. Since 2012, he has been actively documenting Pondicherry in his films, such as Two Flags in 2019, Janani's Juliet, this was India's official entry to the Oscars, and To Die a Frenchman, this is in post-production. The films engage with the Tamil French community, its people, and reflect on the historical past. His films have been screened at film festivals all over the world. He is a visiting faculty at Whistling Woods International and also lectures at FTII and SRFTI. So Manaspati, it's over to you for conducting the session. Unmute.
Not yet. Yeah. Is it? I'm audible now? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Kinera, and welcome, Pankaj, and for all the people who have joined us here. They must have watched the film, I guess. But before we start discussing, I guess some people may not have watched the film, and it would be nice if we could discuss how you came to make the film and the basic gist of the film, so that people who could not watch it, they would still be able to watch it till tonight, midnight, I guess. So tell me, this is your 11th or 12th film, right? And beginning from 2000,
Yeah.
You have been in the field of making documentary films for 20 years now. So how much the documentary scenario has changed since then? If you could briefly touch upon that, then we will start discussing the film.
Sure. Well, I started engaging with documentaries way back in '96. That was the time the 16mm film was still prevalent. People were shooting films on 16mm. And I joined that bandwagon that point of time, which was a very, I would say, strenuous kind of a process. It's very laborious, very time consuming. And by the time I finished my first film, which was Kumar Talkies, which was way back in 1999, the digital technology has slowly kind of crept in. We had the mini DV technology, handy cams available. These were much lighter, much cheaper cameras, and much more accessible. The cameras could reach anywhere. They could get into, people's personal spaces. They could be invisible a lot of the time. And that's when the digital technology started catching in. So post Kumar Talkies, starting from 2001, my second film was in Kashmir. And I, of course, had to switch over to this technology. There was no choice. The filmmaking was becoming impossible. The labs were shutting down. In fact, in my first film, Kumar Talkies itself, I partly shot the film in video on DV technology. And so I wanted to kind of even highlight in my first film this new advent of technology, which we were about to witness, And so, well, that was in '99, and 2001 onwards, I've been in the digital domain and I've been shooting regularly. And as I said before, I kind of produce, direct, edit, camera, everything myself, because it's much more, the medium is much more accessible to me. It's very democratic. I do not have to wait for a crew or big funding to start my films. So I just have the basic camera in hand, and I'm on my own, and I can, shoot what I feel like. And that's been my journey for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we start discussing the film, you are known as a one-man crew. You shoot the film, you edit the film, you do the post-production most of the time on your own. So how good this process is? Is it because of a patent lack of funding for good documentary film that you had to resort to this kind of a method? And how do you think you have been able to master this approach?
I mean, starting from 2001 onwards, there has been very little or scant funding available. And I realized that if I want to make films, I cannot be waiting for things to happen for money to come, and I was fascinated by this technology. And so I just quickly adapted to it, and because the technology is so accessible, you do not in principle actually need a big crew. So I found it very easy to shoot it myself, and I mean, when I say a one-man crew, I just want to kind of discount it over there. Most of the time, there is one more person with me on the shoot. But that one more person is not a professional crew person. That person may not. In fact, most of the time they are not even trained at the film school. They are people because I need them. I'm shooting in a certain terrain where I need a local person who's familiar with the terrain. And so between me and that person, we just do everything, and of course that second person always handles my location sound. But once the shoot is over, yes, I edit myself, and I'm involved in till the film gets over. It's kind of become a style. And also, as I said, there is no money available. As and when the money came for some subsequent projects, that money was not big enough for me to again have a crew. Also, the kind of films I've been making, I've realized that, more than two people, a lot of the time is a crowd. You're getting into very private, intimate spaces with people. You want people to, speak their heart out, share, trust you. And that's not possible if you have 6 people around, So I figured this very soon that, okay, let's just stick to this format of just me and one more person, who is doing the sound. A lot of the time is helping me with the translations. So I've become comfortable with it, and that's become my style. I'm not saying I'm not open to a big crew, but even that opportunity coming my way, or I've never felt that I actually need a third person now for a shoot. I think between me and my colleague, we can handle everything. So that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a kind of being a complete filmmaker.
Yeah, I'm trying to, yes.
Yeah. Now, in the 11 or so documentary films that you have put out to the world in the last 20 years or so, for the last 10 years, for the last 4 or 5 films have all been based in Tamil Nadu. Now, you were born in a small town in North India, and your first film was about film theater.
Yeah.
Which your father ran for many years and which was to be closed. At that point, you made that film, the end of film going culture in a small town. Yeah. So how did this shift to Tamil Nadu happen, and why is it working so well?
Well, purely by accident. I remember 2009 or something. I was there is this gentleman, Padma Bhushan awardee, Dr. Anil Joshi, based out of Dehradun, and he was doing. I've engaged with him earlier. I had made a film with him earlier, and he was doing kind of a cycle yatra from Kanyakumari to Delhi, and he was keen that I document that process, make a film out of it. So we started in Kanyakumari, and on the second or the third day, I remember, we stopped in this place called Nanguneri, where one of the biggest SEZs, special economic zones, were coming up. And of course, there were a lot of interesting things which suddenly popped up. And I suddenly realized this could be an interesting lead for another film, And I just kind of joined that, just kind of, latched onto that idea. And of course, my colleague who was there with me knew Tamil very well. So that film happened like that. I shot that film over like 2.5, 3 years. But and then before I finished that film, I came across this very interesting news article about Pondicherry, how a community of 6,000 Tamil French community. I mean, by Tamil French community, I mean they are French nationals, Tamil ethnicity, living in Pondicherry, but participating in the French presidential elections. And I said, wow, I mean, this is interesting. You're sitting in Pondicherry, but electing a French president. And I said, okay, I would like to make a film on something like this. And that's why, this entire process of going to Pondicherry and starting to flags started. And mind you, it's not just Tamil. I don't even speak a word of French. What I've realized over the period of time is that, language is not that kind of a barrier at all. I think if you have your heart in the right place, it's very easy to navigate. You have a very good colleague with you, who's kind of briefing you exactly what is happening. Yes, what I miss on is that because I do not know the language, it's not possible for me to have a one-on-one conversation in my films with the subject a lot of the time. I would like to intervene immediately and ask the second question. I have to rely on my colleague. And at times, yes, I miss that opportunity. But having said that, let's understand a lot of the people in the world do not make films in their own culture. They step out and make films. And, it's a way out. You just work with somebody whom you're comfortable in, and I just found that way out. So I started shooting Two Flags. And in 2012, while shooting Two Flags, one of the major characters in the film happened to be Vallavan Kumaran, who owns or who is the director of this theater space group called Indianostrum. We became friends. I started documenting his theater work, and suddenly, sometime in I think 2018, this opportunity came my way that I got to, and I was told that he's starting a new production, which is an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, but in a Tamil setting. And I said, wow, I would like to be part of this process. That's how Janani's Juliet happened. And before that, while I was shooting Two Flags itself, and kind of documenting this entire Tamil French culture and what it meant, what identity politics meant, what the merger with Pondicherry's merger with India in '62, what it meant for the community. I came across this old man who was left out. He even never got the French nationality because of various reasons. And I found his story interesting, and I started shooting with him. So what I'm getting at is that, it just being there and being receptive, and stories come your way and I want to react to them. And that's why, Pondicherry, which started as one film in 2012, has now, it's taken an 8-year journey, and now there are 3 films out of it. And yes, I do not speak a word of Tamil and French. So I go by people's instinct. I go by, I strongly believe that when people are talking, their faces, their eyes speak a certain language. I'm receptive to that, and I'm able to kind of navigate through that process. It's not been a difficult process at all. Yeah. I can't.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah. Tell me. Yeah.
Yes. You have briefly told us about how you came to make this film.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the film is based on an actual incident, which was about a person from a different caste marrying a Dalit, and then the boy was killed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the play, which they wanted to do based on this, they linked it, they had the theme of Romeo and Juliet as a parallel. So in your film, I see there are 4 kinds of strands. It is one is at the background, there is Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Second is the incident, this actual couple, and the girl who survived the attack.
Kausalya.
Yeah, Kausalya. And then the making of the play, the process of making of the play, and then you making a film on that. So there are 4 strands going together. And finally, it is your film making process which intervenes, gets into this process of playmaking. And then finally, through your film, you give a shape to all the 4 strands in a certain kind of organic unity, right? So did you actually plan beforehand that you will be going in this way?
Okay, interesting question. Well, most of the films are pretty organic that way. I have a basic core idea with me that this is what I would like to do. And I then kind of go to the field and start kind of bombing my idea to the situation around. It's not written in stone, and that's what I love about documentary. If you go with a very close mind, okay, these are the ideas for my film, you can never make a film. So I try and engage with what is happening around me, and in this film, this is exactly what happened. My starting point was that I was keen to document how Indianostrum engages and how engages with this idea of adapting Romeo and Juliet into a Tamil situation. I wasn't even aware of Shankar and Kausalya story, or the infamous Malapeta incident. And it's only when I started shooting with them, I realized that, in the rehearsals, they would mention this incident time and again. In fact, that infamous clip where you see Shankar and Kausalya attacked by goons, they would use that clip as part of the rehearsals. And so I kind of latched on to that, and very slowly I realized that in principle, yes, they are adapting Romeo and Juliet, but for me, what it meant was that it's actually Shankar and Kausalya story. Romeo and Juliet for me actually, Shankar and Kausalya actually became Romeo and Juliet for me. Now that was my interpretation. The actual play is not like that. And that's why I was very keen to go and meet Kausalya, So as I said, I work with a watertight script. I am open to ideas coming my way. So on this film, when I started shooting with Indianostrum, I realized, they had been working on the play for a long time. So the character of Romeo, they had figured it out. They knew what Romeo is gonna be all about and everything. They did not know what Juliet or Janani is gonna be all about. They hadn't figured out that character. And when I started shooting with them, 3 young girls joined the group, and the director's plan was that one of them will become Juliet, or one of them, will be playing Janani's character. And all 3 of them, and the group works in what you call a device performance setup. It means they do not take Shakespeare's script as sacrosanct. They take that script as a rough framework, and based on the ideas which the script offers, they start improvising. So these 3 girls, along with the group, started improvising. They started evolving what Janani's character would be all about in a Tamil situation, and I started interacting with them. I started reacting to that situation. And so after 10 days, I realized that my film is going to be about searching for Juliet. That was literally the first title which came to my mind, So I said, okay, fine. Searching for Juliet, that's what this film is going to be. How these 3 young girls negotiate and write the character of Juliet, But at the same time, as I said, the documentary is a very dynamic process. I said I cannot just choose to do this. I have to, also pay a lot of attention to what the group is actually doing. So, so the energies are divided. you are documenting the larger production, you're documenting these three girls. So what I did systematically was, I remember starting the shoot end of June, and the shoot kind of wrapped up around 10 September. So over those, we are talking about roughly 12 weeks, I, at regular intervals, would interview these girls on a one-on-one basis outside the theater group, and just build a lot of trust with them, what they were trying to do, what was their background, what was their idea of caste, what was their idea of love, irrespective what is happening in the play, because and slowly with each passing day, I figured out that the film is actually about these three young girls, and not even about Kausalya. No, it's about these three girls trying to figure out what Juliet or Janani is gonna be. Sometime, I remember mid-August, and I was very keen, Vallavan, the director, was very keen that we go and meet Kausalya. So we one day finally went and, we drove down and we met Kausalya, and we just kind of managed to get it was a 40-minute interview with Kausalya, 40 minutes. And I could not even ask the questions which I had planned. We just let her speak. And the minute she started speaking, I said, oh my God, this is Juliet. This is Juliet. This is Janani, and I said, okay, this is very interesting. How do I now evolve this? I was kind of awestruck, but I knew I had kind of found my structure for the film, that it's going to be Kausalya's story, So we came back to the group, we played back Kausalya's interview to the group, and this is how the group works. They heard Kausalya's story in person, they knew, and so excited, and they said, okay, we need to take some examples from what she's saying and let's evolve something. So that particular scene where the mother and father land up at Janani's house and say, you need to come back with us, and Janani refuses. And the mother says, okay, give us back everything, give us the clothes. This is an actual incident which happened with Kausalya. And the group immediately took it up and they started improvising, and we are talking literally 10 days before the final play. And the group took that.
Oh, once again. Okay, while we wait for Pankaj to come back, what I found very interesting is the kind of interventions. Okay, right, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I'm sorry. There is something I don't know. This is not in my hand, but it's supposed to be one of the fastest internet connections available. Today, it's like very wobbly. I don't know. So what I'm saying is that the group was dynamic enough to adapt her story and take some examples from a story, put that into the film, put that into their play. And what I did was that I said, okay, because by that time I had kind of gained the trust of these people. So they were very keen to talk to Kausalya. So I set up these telephonic conversations where, they can understand more about Kausalya, get a heart to heart, very emotional bond between them. And all that setting up, came in handy and became footage for my film, where Kausalya is telling us exactly what she went through as a child, growing up in a very oppressive, patriarchal, upper caste kind of a setup, what exactly growing up is all about. And she's sharing it with these two young girls who belong to different setup, So all this became very vibrant kind of a situation for me. And it all lent itself as very valuable footage for the production, And as I said, this is what I believe in while I'm making documentaries. I want to be challenged by these dynamic situations around me. What I call these accidents. You never planned them, but they happen. And how well can you interact with these accidents, or how well do you negotiate with these accidents, is for me what a documentary is all about. and I was lucky. I could handle these situations, and as we started evolving and evolving, the 10 September, they left the plays, the actual play is a 4-hour song and dance kind of a production, and which they were going to perform in Paris. I started editing the film, and I realized somewhere midway, so what is this film about? Is it about caste, about Kausalya story, or does it go beyond that? And for me, that became the pivotal question, because I can just end the film, I can, okay, so this is what happened to Kausalya, and finally the father was convicted and other. I said, no, the film is not about, it is about caste, but it is not for me. And that's where, your politics or your worldview comes in. So what is this film about? And I figured out it's about love.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
But when we watch the film, we also see that the director of the film is exactly doing what you also probably were in the process of the film doing.
Yeah.
Both of you were probably working towards the same end.
Yeah.
And the Shakespearean play is just in the background. And in the process of making this play, they totally change the emphasis. The emphasis shifts to Juliet. And although the hero Jack is a Dalit, but the director keeps saying that the film is not about him. He's anyway going to suffer, right? And it's more about this girl, who is the real victim, rather than this boy, whose character is based on the actual story where the male boy lover gets killed.
Yeah.
So this shifting of emphasis from Romeo to Juliet, from a Dalit to a kind of a person from another caste, a female from another caste, a forward caste possibly, and putting the entire onus in a manner of speaking on her, because she got to handle it.
Yeah.
It's from her that the whole society has to draw its lessons. Love is an issue for an Indian female, especially when caught up in this kind of a situation. It's not so much for a boy, because a girl is responsible for the family. A girl represents the whole caste. So a boy is relatively not so burdened, right? So I think this whole dynamics that comes through in the entire process of the film while we watch it. I mean,
yeah.
And the way you end it in a kind of a romantic fashion, but also I think it's a very sublime thing. It could have gone, sentimental. It looks a wee bit sentimental, but at the same time, it's an extremely sublime statement.
Yeah.
That finally, the small area or the small time small duration in which genuine love can exist is the most valuable thing, and that is emphasized in the production of the play also. So what's happening here?
See, one thing, let me just share one thing with you again, reiterate. The actual play, which is called Chandala, which is a 4-hour-long production, is very different.
I see.
That play is literally, they've adapted it into an Indian situation, but it literally follows Shakespeare to the T. So it ends the Shakespearean way and everything. Yeah.
We don't get that impression from your film.
Well, that's what I'm saying. For me, a documentary, it's a creative interpretation of reality. It is not the reality.
Okay.
Yeah. So I chose in my film that my emphasis is gonna be, as I said in the beginning, is gonna be about how these girls negotiate love. Okay. For example, in the play, in my film, you don't get an idea what would have actually happened in the play. No. What you get a sense of is that, okay, this is Kausalya's story, who went through a bad patch, and these girls have imbibed.
No. On that, I must say that the kind of statements and the directions which the theater director gives, okay, they seem to be making a very firm statement on what he's doing with the theme. That is the impression. Well, but you are saying that is how you managed to devise the film.
Yes. See, yes, we both, the director and myself, I would say at a spiritual level, we were connected. We both knew that, if there is an answer to this problem, the answer is in love. Love lives beyond death. That's the premise of the Shakespearean play also. And love is something which can actually win over caste. We strongly believe that. And this is something. These are the ideas which are kind of imbibed from Vallavan while he was rehearsing for the play. What I'm saying is that the actual theatrical production is very different.
Okay.
And my film is very different.
Right. But just taking the film as the artifact with which we have to deal, the last scene in which, you and the theater director go and see the chamber.
Yeah.
The set of the chamber, the girls' chamber.
Yeah.
Which represents something like the classical balcony of a Shakespearean play, under which the lover comes and sings, whatever songs to his female lover.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go there, you ask him to switch off the lights and say, "Let Juliet sleep now. Go to sleep." Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a constant interplay between what art is, what life is, and making art of life gives or endows a greater meaning on life. It embellishes life. That kind of a pattern of thinking seems to run through the film.
Yeah.
Is this your constant approach in your documentaries?
I didn't get your last line. Is this your
constant approach in your documentaries?
Well, yes, as I said, as I said, this is the organic way to approach a documentary. That you just keep evolving with what is happening in front of you. If you're gonna be stuck in some rules, in some ideas which you have, well, a documentary is not that, because events in front of you are changing. They're dynamic. So if the events in front of you, they are changing, they are dynamic, how can you have ideas which are stuck in some way? You cannot be like that. So you're constant. So it's a dialogue which is happening. When I'm shooting a documentary, it's a dialogue. Right. I'm saying something, but the subject or the situation reacts. Then I say something, then they react. Then I say something. It's a dialogue which is happening, and we kind of document that dialogue and make a film out of it.
Okay, so a dialogic approach.
Yes, definitely.
What defines?
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Before we move on to the people who are attending this session, and I think many of them will have interesting questions. I find some very interesting people there watching this conversation. I would ask the host to play the clip that we wanted to play. Yeah. Just one clip.
Yeah, sure.
And people who have not seen the film so far would get some idea of the film.
மேபி சங்கரை மட்டும் சொல்றதுக்கான வாய்ப்பு அவங்களுக்கு இருந்திருக்கலாம். நான் ஒருவேளை கர்ப்பமாகி அந்த குழந்தை என்னோட கருவுல வளர்ந்தா அவங்களோட சாதி புனிதம் போயிடும் அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு காரணத்துக்காக என்னையும் கொலை பண்ணும். அப்போ அவங்க சாதி புனிதம்ங்கிறது ஒரு பெண்ணை மையமா வச்சுதான் இருக்கு. அதனாலதான் பெண் விடுதலை இல்லையே மண் விடுதலை இல்லை அப்படின்னு நம்ம சொல்றோம்.
Yeah, I find the Kausalya statement, the insight with which, it's both social and psychological, and it's stunning, as you said, that, her insight and the way he has been able to analyze her own predicament is an outstanding thing. I think now we could open the session for taking the questions. Maybe Kinara can handle that.
Yeah. There is Sandhya who typed a question in the box, but if she's here, maybe she can ask the question herself.
Sandhya Agarwal. Yeah. She was there?
Yeah, I'm here.
She's not.
Okay.
She was there, but
She's here.
Oh, great. So please go ahead. Yeah.
Pankaj, I'm still here. Yes, I have finally managed to see the film. And I enjoyed it tremendously. And actually, you answered some of the other questions I had in the course of the conversation. Is Pankaj here? Did we lose him?
No, he's there. He's
there. Okay. So I think the question I wrote down is that of course, I understand that the process of making the documentary is quite organic. And you said that in the process, you discovered Kausalya and Shankar's story. So the question was that if you didn't know the story already, because it seemed so central to the film, what did you originally decide to make the film about when you set out to work with Indianostrum?
Pankaj, have you disappeared?
Yeah, Pankaj, I think we lost him.
Yeah, I didn't see him. That's why.
Yeah, we lost him.
Oh God.
He's come now, I think. Yeah.
Come back.
Question Suna, Pankaj.
Again.
I think we lost you.
Could you hear her question? No, you will have to unmute yourself. Pankaj has to be unmuted.
Okay, yeah. Sandhya, I read your question on the chat room. Is that the same?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Thanks for asking that question. No, I did not know about Kausalya's story. But when Indianostrum they were like, as I said, they follow what you call a device performance. So when they were rehearsing for the production, and they were evolving the play, time and again, they would mention Shankar and Kausalya's story. So like, for example, Jack, his friend says, if you're going to fall in love and if you're going to pursue that girl, just watch out, you might meet the same fate as Shankar and Kausalya, and he actually, Jack's friend actually shows him the clip, the video clip, and which is in the final play also, that clip is played out on the big screen.
The CCTV footage.
The CCTV footage, and so there was this, there were references to Kausalya time and again. And as the play progressed, my engagement with I realized that its spirit.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you could unmute your video and answer.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
No, but Pankaj, before you knew this story, what were you going to make the film about? Was it going because you were just interested by Indianostrum?
Actually,
yes. Frankly,
how did the film get commissioned at all?
Yeah, so when I was commissioned to do the film, it was actually gonna be about how Indianostrum is gonna adapt Romeo and Juliet into a Tamil situation, and the fact that they have a very fascinating way of using device performances and the way they kind of evolve their plays. Yes, it was more about the group, and that's how I started shooting, but within a week I realized, this is, I think I can go beyond this, and that's when I said, okay, I would focus more on these 3 young girls who've joined the group. And then after 10 days, I realized that no, these three girls, but I think Shankar and Kausalya story is also very important. And I realized that in principle, the play is Romeo and Juliet happens to be a framework which the group is pursuing. And actually in the final play also, towards the end, I think 10 minutes before the play closes down, there's some kind of a voice message from Kausalya saying that, what you saw for the last 3.5 hours, somewhere is my story. This is what happened to me in India and stuff like that, I didn't know how the play is gonna end. But to answer your question, yes, I just went with the flow. And very soon I realized that this is actually Kausalya's story, and for me, the film came to a closure when I met Kausalya for the first and the last time. I mean, my entire film fell in place over there. I knew my structure then and there, So
Right.
yeah, so thanks to her. Yeah. And I think I've answered the next question also by Uma Sridhar. Is Kausalya's story mentioned at all in the French play Chandala? Yes, it is. It is mentioned. There are passing references, as I said, and it's not a French play. It's a Tamil play. The entire play is in Tamil. It was performed in France, and I think they had this provision of putting French subtitles. The French subtitles were projected on the big screen. Yeah.
May I venture to ask, since you took such an extreme artistic license, how did the people who commissioned this film react? Did they like
They loved it. They loved it.
Yeah. Okay.
Then, I mean,
Because
and
Vaishnavi
PSP
has,
is very open. They've never, yeah, sure. Yes, go ahead, Vaishnavi.
So I think there's a lot of disturbance around her, so I'll have to ask her question. She says, "Sir, why have you shown caste in the film? What made you to add it? And if we even encourage it in films?" I mean, she leaves it open.
Oh.
Why do you
Well,
encourage caste
I mean,
in films?
it's not. I mean, that was the starting point. Well, as I said, that was the starting point. How Indianostrum would adapt Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet into a Tamilian context. The original Romeo and Juliet, it's a family rivalry. Once you adapt it into an Indian situation, I knew that it's going to be a caste rivalry. The group knew it, I knew it, and that for me was the fascinating starting point. How will the group negotiate with this idea of caste? That was the starting point for me, and I think what the Indianostrum has done is fantastic. The issue of caste has to be dealt with time and again. And what is beautiful is that both in the play, in the original play, and in my film, the kind of importance which is given to love, and the fact that Valavan and the group strongly believe that if we have to defeat the caste system, it is only through love, and that's why, if you see very carefully, why was Kausalya attacked? She was attacked because the family feared there's going to be a baby, and that baby is going to pollute the caste system. So let's just
Pollution happens in the home.
Then and there. You understand how violent a caste system is as and when it plays out, So, but the only way, as I said, to win over caste is love. So we have to, we have to deal with caste politics in all artistic kind of work, and we have to come up with our own interpretation, with our own kind of reaction to it. I'm not saying finding solutions. I don't believe in that, but at least finding a voice which can negotiate with this very oppressive caste politics. Yeah.
There's a question there, I think.
Sarla, would you like to ask the question yourself?
She's there.
Yeah,
Okay,
I can read the question. How did the delightful idea of the rickshaw come in? Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sarla, thanks for asking that question. Let me tell you, that was the first day of the shoot. That was the first day of the shoot. and again, I want to emphasize what this group does. When we say a device performance, this is what they do. So the task for that day was, the group people were told, okay, so how do you think the lovers will get married? You know, what will happen before the marriage? How will they get married? Will they get married in a court, in a church, in something? Now let your imagination go wild. And that's what they do. So they set a task, and so they negotiate with that. The group, you know, they break into 2-3 subgroups. And one of the groups, they actually got a rickshaw from the road into the theater, and they said in the play, they will be using this. And it was so beautiful. You know, they actually broke that rickshaw in 3 parts and took it to Paris. It's not just for my play, for my film, you know, it's there in the final production. That's how the lovers get married, you know, and that's the beauty or the power of what Indianostrum does, you know. Yeah.
I think
Thanks for
basically
asking that question.
Vaishnavi's
Yeah.
question is that can you make it, you could have made it a little bit more hopeful, because the way you showed it may give wrong ideas to the public.
Well, not much to say on that. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
on the contrary, I think if you watch it once or twice more, you would really find that it is very hopeful. And I find that within that context, the way in which the film puts the onus on the girl, okay, from non-Dalit women, is a very interesting thing.
Hina, would you like to ask your question? You can unmute yourself and ask.
Hi, sir.
Yes, Hina.
I can hear
Am
you.
I audible?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is not related to the documentary directly. I wanted to know was there a concrete moment when you realized that this is what you wanted to do, make documentaries, or was it a long process?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it was thanks for asking that. You're taking me to my past. I started working in Bollywood in '93. My first project was assistant editor to on this project, Bandit Queen, and with Shankar Kapoor, and Renu Saluja was my mentor. She was the chief editor, and so I joined Bollywood in the most in the most typical way, what a graduate from a film school would do. And I was doing other multiple projects. I got disillusioned very soon, within 2 years. Other things happened in my life, in my personal life. And in '95, I lost my father. And I remember that, I reached a kind of saturation point in my professional career. There was a personal tragedy at home. And I remember a very close friend, coming home for consolation and stuff. And he said, so what's happening to the theater? And I said, what? He said, don't you people own a cinema hall? I said, yeah, that's back and beyond. We don't get a penny out of this. And, so what are you talking about? So he said, so what's going to happen to it now? I said, I don't know. It doesn't bother me. He said, well, exactly. Why don't you? It doesn't bother you. And you are disillusioned with cinema in Bollywood. Where do you think all this is going? Is it the death of cinema, with the cinema hall collapsing and stuff like that? And it kind of just rang a bell. And I said, oh my God, I think I found my bearings over there. And I remember within like 2-3 months, I made my first trip to Kalpi. That's where the cinema hall is, Kumar Talkies. And I started working on my first project. So it was a pure accident.
Which state is that?
This is Kalpi. It's very close to Kanpur, 80 kilometers from Kanpur, in Uttar Pradesh, of course. Kalpi is kind of famous for a few things. Bandit Queen, Phulan Devi belongs to Kalpi. If you see the actual film, there is a mention of Kalpi police station. Jhansi ki Rani Lakshmi Bai, the last battle which she lost was in Kalpi. There's a mention of that in my documentary. And so I just got on to this process of, personal film, the collapse of a cinema hall, which belonged to my family. It was a very traumatic experience. Let me say, the first film, 3.5 years, 16 millimeter. But by the time I finished, I knew that was my calling. And, you know, it took some time to kind of construct the second film, which was 2001. It's about folk theater in Kashmir. There was a time lag over there. It took some time to really get my bearings, what I want to do in life. But once the Kashmir film started, there was no looking back. By the time I finished the second one, I started on the third. By the time I finished the third, I started on the fourth and the fifth and the sixth. You know, so and that's what I've been shooting. Most of the time, I'm working on multiple projects at any given point of time. You know, yeah. So that's how it happened. It was an accident. In the film school, I had no ideas that I would be making films. I had never planned it this way. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The process of nomination to Oscar itself is, quite fraught in India.
Kinnera, that was not Oscars. It was an Academy Award. I think that was an error. That correct.
Okay. I just want to qualify. You know, there's a lot of misinformation around. Okay, the thing is, it's not a nomination. Qualify. So my film won the best film at the Kerala Documentary Festival. So if you win the best film at the Kerala Documentary Festival,
it becomes an entry to the Academy Awards.
I think we lost him again.
Various. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. The Academy has various methods for every category. So for fiction, your country goes through a process. So the Federation of Film Societies, FFI, they nominate a film. For documentary. You go through the Kerala route. So you just qualify. So I qualified. That was it. But yes, it was a big thing for me, at least. Yeah.
Definitely is.
I think maybe
we have time for one last question, because it's 5:29.
Oh, should we be doing that sharp 5:30 or a little?
Yeah.
Few minutes more.
No.
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right. Okay. I think maybe this is the last question. How much time do you normally, spend on making a film, and how much time this film took? I think this.
Well, okay, quickly.
Yes.
This is the fastest film I've made in my career. The fastest. Like, I started shooting in end of June. By end of September, by 10 September, the shoot was all over. By end of November, middle of December, literally the film was ready. Normally, like Two Flags, I started shooting in 2012, the one on Pondicherry, about the Tamil French community. And I shot from 2012 to 2017, 5 years. So yes, I am so a lot of the time, I'm actually on an average shooting for 3-4 years for any particular project. This was like the quickest I've done. Yeah.
And if you can conclude in a few sentences, how the documentary filmmaking scenario is in the country. In the last 3 or 4 decades, India has produced some extraordinarily great films. Although within the country, there is hardly any recognition. I think when you pair them against what the mainstream, feature film, commercial cinema, or whatever the art cinema has achieved, I think documentary cinema should, vis-a-vis that, should be rated very high.
Well, the talent is all there. I don't know if you know this, just yesterday, Shaunak Sen's film got the best documentary at Sundance. Yeah, even great. Last year, Writing with Fire had got the best documentary at Sundance. And these are very coveted awards. They are not just because they're American, they say, oh my, and if you actually follow the documentary filmmaking in this country, it's getting very rich. The ideas are fascinating, but unfortunately, with each passing year, and especially post 2014, all the funding has dried up. So it's people's individual initiative. They are taking the plunge, and they are doing it. There is absolutely no state support. Whatever the state used to provide, like there was some token amounts of money given to PSBT, Public Service Broadcasting Trust in Delhi, and they would pass it on to filmmakers. That funding has also dried up because the government doesn't believe in giving money to PSBT anymore. They've actually shut shop. So it's a very challenging time, but at the same time, from this challenging time, some of the most fascinating work is coming out now. So I think that's what happens. Only in dark times do we get good things.
Oh, that's a very nice statement to end this whole session with. It was a very interesting session. In fact, I must tell you, in the entire literary festival, you got the longest time, because all other sessions are two panelists, one moderator, one anchor, and it's just 50 minutes. So Sumanaspati, do not complain. We actually did have a very good discussion.
Also, because most of the people must have seen the film beforehand. You know the work already.
Thanks a lot, and to everyone, the organizers, and
yes,
and if people want to, they can just write back to me. I said thanks to everyone, and if people are keen, they can just write back to me, kumartalkies@yahoo.com, or you can follow my blog, kumartalkies.blogspot. You'll get to see the kind of films I've done or I am in the process of. And yes, thanks a lot once again to everyone, especially the organizers. Murthy
Thank you very much.
Eddie, my friend, and let's keep in touch. Okay, great.
Thank you, Sumanaspati, and thank you. And thank you, viewers who saw it and came here. This is what makes, gives life to meaningful cinema. Thank you very much for your valuable time here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.